Hello everyone, my name is Zard and welcome back to another video, and today I'll be talking about episode 3 of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. So it is Friday today, I just finished the episode about an hour ago, and I've really enjoyed episode 3. I think it's my favorite episode of the show so far. I just really enjoyed it. I really liked Numenor, which was, of course, set up in episode 2 at the end. And one thing that this episode didn't have was the dwarves. So Durin as well as Elrond wasn't there, and Khazad-dûm, which I think it was my favorite part of episode 2, and I was surprised that I enjoyed this episode as much as I did without the dwarves actually being in the episode. That was my favorite part of the show so far, so to really like this episode without the dwarves, it surprised me a bit. I really liked Numenor. The design of the armor for the guards I thought was really good. I really just quite liked that. I found in episode 1 where there was the first stage flashbacks, and we saw the elven armor there. I was a bit disappointed with the design of it, but I really liked the Numenor design armor. The ships, the Numenorian ships that we saw Isildur on, as well as Galadriel and Hellbrand in the start of the episode, those looked really great. I absolutely love those, and that Numenor itself. All the carvings into the side of the mountains, and just the overall design I really liked. One thing that, just seeing the water and seeing them enter Numenor, in my head, all I could think of was like the Lake Town theme from The Hobbit. So when there was another theme that was a good theme, all I could think of was the Lake Town theme, which is, along with the Shire and a few other themes, is my favorite in Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. That's all I could really think of when they were entering Numenor. We also saw Eradir, or whatever his name is, the elf who was captured last episode by the orcs, and now he's taken into those orcs' camp. His other elven, sylvan elves, I believe, those two that were in the last episode at the tower, they were killed, which, you know, they got killed pretty quick, at least the one where they got the rations of the water by the orcs. And then one shot in the back at the end of the episode from a couple of arrows. The orcs, I really liked them. First, their design, I thought it looked great. I would say, very much like the Lord of the Rings designs. The armor, of course, was completely different. But I would say the design, and one thing that I'm really happy they went with, is that they have the orcs speaking English, which it's one of my favorite parts in Lord of the Rings, especially like the meats back on the menu, all of that. There's something about orcs just speaking normally that I just find really hilarious, and I really like it a lot. So I was happy they chose to do it that way. And then, of course, the Harfoots were in this episode as well, doing their migration. Nori's father, I'm not 100% sure on his name, of course, was hurt in the last episode. When they found out the stranger, who the meteor man, when they found Nori had kept him near the village, they had sent them to the back, and then by the end of the episode, the strangers helping Nori Brandyfoot, I believe, is her name, and her family, as well as Poppy there, just helping them get to where they have to be, so that's good. And then at the end of the episode, we had Adar, who seems like who the orcs are praising to or reporting to. Yeah, so I don't know if like Adar is underneath Anatar or something, because I'm assuming Sauron in the form of Anatar is going to go to Celebrimbor, trick him into forging the rings and all that. So I don't know exactly where Adar fits in. to that, but we saw like a shadowy silhouette of him, and he almost to me seemed like a bit of like in elven form, I would say. The armor, he had like black armor with the gloves that were a bit spiky, and then the long, darker hair. I don't know, I just felt like the shape and everything of the blurry person, it to me really looked like an elf. But all of that stuff, the orcs, the Harfoots, all of that I enjoyed in this episode. But moving back to Numenor, we had Tara Mariel, which I believe is who is in charge currently, and then her like advisor is, I believe, Farazan, who I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think he becomes our Farazan, and then I think that's really what leads into the fall of Numenor and the true Numenorians and all of that. And then there is Tarmariel's father's kind of mystery there. I believe there's Tar Palantir. I don't know exactly where he fits in, if he's was before Mariel, quite a bit before Mariel, I'm not 100% sure. On that, Galadriel I thought was good, and then we had Isildur and Elendil, and Isildur's sister, who I can't quite remember her name, but she was accepted into some sort of building thing, so I don't know if that means she's going to Middle-earth, or if she's working in Numenor, where this building thing is. I'm not sure if this building thing is sent out by Celebrimbor, or what exactly this building thing is. I'm interested in that for sure, but seeing Isildur was interesting. Of course, we know how Isildur, as well as Elendil, a lot of these characters' stories end, but we've seen it in The Lord of the Rings. We know how Isildur's story, like, directly ends. We've seen it, so it's interesting seeing this character who seems like a really nice guy, good character here, and that he's going to end up being corrupted by the ring, and that's interesting. All the Numenor stuff I really enjoyed. So I've really enjoyed this episode. Now talking about Lego sets, I would say the Orc Tunnels probably wouldn't be all that likely. It is pretty dark. There was quite a bit of death and a lot of people just being treated terribly by these orcs, forced to do all this digging and stuff. So maybe some of the minifigures I'd like to see work. Figures if Rings of Power was to ever get Lego sets. And Numenor, I think, would be the main stuff from this episode that I'd like to see. Sets, I'd love to see the ship. One of my favorite sets from Lord of the Rings line was the ship. And I'd love to see one here. It'd be a bit smaller, I would assume, and the amount of detail that was at like the bottom of the ship I thought was great, so I'd really like to see that represented in Lego. And then Numenor as a whole, whether that was a smaller like architecture style model or more of a mid-scale play set, almost like a Hogwarts style modular set where you could combine different sections of Numenor, but we still haven't seen all that much of it, so when we do see more of Numenor, and if it really, we see a lot of different rooms, that's what I would say I'd like to see for a Numenorian set. But the number one Lego set that I'd love to see from this episode would be those Numenorian ships, with some Numenorian minifigures, Isildur, Elendil, some of the soldiers, Galadriel, Hellbrand, who I did enjoy in this episode as well. So that was just my thoughts on this episode. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.